tearing up your kitchen, you need to go somewhere. You do not want to be trying to live in a space that's under construction. That is madness on a level you do not need to subject yourself to. If you're renovating, take a stiff drink and get ready, because the minute you open up that wall, God knows what you can find, okay? And the reality of it is, there's all kinds of stuff that got done before you showed up on the scene with that home that may or may not be to code. And the minute you open up that wall, you have to bring it to code. In fact, in the US, if we do something as simple as change out our toilets, we have to bring the toilet to code, which is a good thing, but you're going to be required to do that. So you have to think about it in terms of your overage is going to be higher than that 10% if you are renovating. I would estimate 15 to maybe even 20. Your furniture isn't going to cost more just because you're renovating, but anything that you're doing construction-wise will cost more than your initial budget allows for, because it's Murphy's Law. Just build that into your budget. And then that way there's no ugly surprises, or you don't start gulping 2/3 of the way through the project and go, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to finish this.
So guys, when it comes to budgeting for any space, you definitely want to spend a bigger portion of your budget on the wow items, or the things that you'll first notice in any space. You'll also want to consider larger splurges for things that you would use daily, or things that will increase the value of your home ultimately. And just to clarify, know that splurging doesn't mean overspending. It just simply means prioritizing where you're putting your funds. So in the example of a kitchen remodel, you definitely would want to invest in your kitchen cabinets. They get used daily. They take up a lot of space, so a lot of visual space. Another one would be your countertops for the same reason. They get daily use again. And so it's just it's a smart investment to spend a bit more on countertops and cabinets. Also faucets. Please guys, don't cheap out on your fixtures, or especially your faucet. This is another item that will get used daily. And honestly, the higher end ones, the top quality ones, look so much better. So it's definitely worth that investment. Lighting too is another one. That's usually, lighting, as we know, can make or break a room. And it's often the first thing that people will notice in your space. A couple of areas that you can save with your budget, I would say, your sink. You can get just a basic affordable option there. As well as your cabinetry hardware. There's no need to go for the pricier option there, especially when there's so many affordable options that look really good and will elevate the look of your cabinetry. And also your decor and accessories. There's no reason to blow your budget on decorative accents vases or bowls or trays. You want to just simply invest in a few unique pieces that you love there. And it really is about the final overall look. And no one's really going to be able to tell the difference between high and low end when it comes to accessories. So.
You know what? You're absolutely right, Megan. Thank you for that. There's an expense of needing an alternate living facility. Guys, if you're doing anything construction-wise, like tearing up your kitchen, you need to go somewhere. You do not want to be trying to live in a space that's under construction. That is madness on a level you do not need to subject yourself to. And if you guys are one of those guys where you're absolutely about to attack a kitchen or do something significant like a kitchen or a bathroom with your home, maybe add in a small addition, change out some windows, renovate in any way, you absolutely need to check out the designer method. This is my new program for anyone who's doing any kind of significant either construction or renovation to their homes. I take you from soup to nuts. There's a link down below that'll give you more information on it. So check out the link down below. It's definitely in the description, but it's also right here, and I hope I see you there. Asbestos, ran into asbestos. The minute it happens here in the US, everything shuts down. So I'm just going to hit this one last point that's super important in the book. That is the kind of the fourth element in planning for the project, which is the timeline or the schedule, or we use in the business, we use critical path. And that is, Dina, that starts, I think, on page 38. Yes. Okay. So here's the reality of how all of these things link together. You have now created your inspiration. You have now defined exactly what you want to do with your scope of work. You have now created a ballpark budget. Okay, now what you need to decide is when and how long do I want to take to do this project? And that's a super LinkedIn element because, let's be honest, you could build a house in a week if you want to, but it's going to cost a heck of a lot more money than you have budgeted, okay? But maybe you have the ability to space your project out over a period of several months. I never work on a project, it seems, that is shorter than 6 months. Sometimes they've gone as long as 4 years. So it really just kind of depends upon the scale of the project, budgeting, the scope of work, and what needs to get done. So these 4 pillars are what holds up your planning for your project. So what do you need to include when you are thinking about your timeline is, again, I go back to construction. If you're going to do anything construction, and it could be something as simple as maybe you have a 2-story house and you want to repaint it, okay? You may want to get a professional painter in to get to those ceilings that are 24 feet up, all right? That's not an easy project to do on your own. So you want to assemble a team, and your team is completely reliant upon your scope of work, all right? And as somebody mentioned, you definitely want to make sure that you're hiring licensed people. And I will say that, I will drop dead saying you always have to have a licensed contractor and you always have to have a licensed electrician and plumber. Never let your nephew, who's learning about electricity, do work on your house. A, it's against code, all right, here in the US anyway. And B, it's extremely dangerous because the minute the electrical is done and it's not correct, you lock that stuff away behind the walls, you're not thinking about it, you could end up with a fire behind your walls. It's a nightmare. I've seen it. I've had it happen on projects. So you'd always want to make sure that you are always using people who are liable legally for the work that they perform in your home, okay? Because you do not want to have a problem on your situation. So number 1, assemble a professional team that you need. Again, could be as simple as a painter. Number 2, you want to, or it could be much more complex, tile guide, consultant, general contractor, all those things, roofer, all those things. Okay. Phase 2 is you want to hit your schematic design time frame. Okay. Oh, excuse me. You may take the timeline for hiring your team. It really depends upon your scope of work. That's why these things are so important together. But it could take as easy as like maybe a week to find a simple painter, or it could take a couple months if you're hiring a lighting consultant, or if you're hiring a structural engineer. You have to get into their queue so that you get your project onto their boards. So sometimes it can take like a couple of months. It depends. So knowing your scope of work and knowing how many team members you're going to need to assemble and knowing their timelines makes you or helps you build in this timeline. If you're still going, I don't have a clue on how to do the contractors, that's another tip, which is look for people around you, get consultants. We kind of outline the details in the book a little bit more as well, but that's a very important point.
And we actually also have, because it is so important, we have created a resource that's called How to Hire a General Contractor. And that covers everything you need to know, from red flags to green flags, I suppose. But Lisa really, really details that quite a bit.
Because there's a number of steps that, especially if you're hiring, I'm going to say this, there's a number of steps that you want to go through if you're hiring a general contractor, someone who's going to manage the overall construction level for your project. Especially, let's go back to kitchens again. Kitchens are the most complex space to develop in any house. And so because you have a whole number of trades, you have plumbers, you have electricians, you have cabinet makers, you have flooring installers, you have painters, you might have windows and door guys, you have appliance installers. There's all kinds of parties in the mix on that one. And what you want to do is you may want to have somebody who's kind of the boss of bosses, and that's your general contractor on something that complex. Anyway, all right. So phase 2, which is phase 2 of your timeline, needs to be built. Phase 2 that needs to be built into your timeline is what we call in the business schematic design. Let me define what schematic looks like. Schematic is your ballparks. And so by the time you're getting to your schematic design, you probably have a better understanding of what exactly your floor plan looks like, what exactly your products and materials might be. Like maybe you've decided, we're beating that kitchen example, maybe you've decided you're going to go with porcelain tile because the original stone tile is looking really expensive right now. So you're going to switch that out to a porcelain tile. So you're kind of knowing those details because you've begun to define that, you've begun to work on the budget a little bit. And so these porcelain tiles come from Italy. And so they're a 6-week lead time. So you need to be able to build in that 6-week lead time into kind of, your understanding of your schematics or your understanding of your timeline. And that's what happens when you're in schematics. You look at cost estimates from things and you're beginning to put together your final, in your Pinterest program, your final kind of concept boards. Yes, I'm doing farmhouse. Yes, I'm going to do a new kitchen. And so I want this kind of cabinet. I do want hardware. I want X, Y, and Z. Those are kind of finally coming together in what I call that first pass or schematic. Now, that can take, again, depending upon the type of your project, we call it out in the book as a single space can take as quick as 2 to 3 weeks. A whole house can take 4 to 6 weeks, depending upon how fast you're moving on it and how fast you can get all of the information put together and assemble and go, oh my gosh, I really love this cordon bleu range that I really want to put in there because I've decided that I love cooking. And the cordon bleu is a 12-week lead time. So, you got to build that in, but you want it and you're going to put it in there. So you have to build that in the timeline that you're going to put in. Now, phase 3 of creating your timeline or your critical path is what we call design development in the business, which is that you've now got kind of, I'm kind of thinking porcelain tile, blah, blah, blah. And this is where you literally nail things down. You literally go, that's the tile I want. That's the kitchen countertop that I want. That's the light fixture that I want. And you start both plugging that into your budget, okay? But your budget's already informed by a ballpark around this one. And you nail everything down so that it's labeled as final selection or final decision. And we kind of talk a little bit about this on pages 40 and 41 of the book. And again, this goes back to, maybe you haven't decided on a sofa, but you need a sectional. So you've ballparked the sectional price in there, but you really need to find it by the time you're in design development because that particular sectional may be coming from, I don't know, India or something. I have no idea. And so that may need to take time. And so you need to know those things to build it into your timeline. So nailing down those final selections on timelines can take anywhere, again, single space would be 2 to 3 weeks for those final selections, plus another 2 weeks for maybe revisions. Oh, maybe you're in love with that porcelanosa tile, but they just told you that it's discontinued. But those kinds of things happen. So you have to build in, a little bit of that time frame. So single space, 2 to 4 weeks, and a whole house, 4 to 6 or 8 weeks, depending upon your final design development. Because at this point, you are locking things down and you are, knowing exactly what's going into where. So that's what happens with design development. So that's that timeline for that. Then the next part of your timeline that you need to include is what we call procurement and or construction, and they are tied together. So if you're doing construction, for instance, and the contractor or yourself may be ordering, I'm going to use flooring again, for an example, maybe you're putting wood flooring into your kitchen. Well, the reality of it is wood flooring has a lead time. All materials have lead times. Everything that needs to be manufactured that goes into a home has a lead time. So you have to understand what those lead times are and back out. So if your contractor says to you, he's going to be done with rough construction by X date, you're going to need to have that flooring ready to go there. So you need to work back from that date and make sure that you have purchased the materials by that time. All right. So if you're not doing construction, your timeline looks a little bit different, which is it's just procurement. So you're going to need to just say, okay, I'm just going to buy this sofa and that dining table, and those take 8 weeks to get in or whatever. So I need to be able to make sure that I've got everything done and ready to receive those items in 8 weeks. So you need to work back from that date that you want to be finished and place the orders for the materials at that time. So it's a simple thing to do, but there's Doesn't sound simple when I think about it, but it's a simple thing to do when you understand that you're always doing what you call working backwards on the timeline. All right, you guys, I love you so much. You have no idea. You make my day every time we do this. It's just, it's so fun.